Hello. Welcome back to Fall Into Tech. It's so good to be back here. So I took a short break, to enjoy some family time with the arrival of my daughter, but now I'm back here. So now it's time to jump into Project 6. So Project 6, we are going to create two VPC and pair them together, right? So it's going to be VPC pairing. We're going to connect two VPC together so they can communicate privately and safely, right? And this is a great skill to understand when it comes to building scalable AWS environment. And without wasting any time, let's go ahead and jump right into our AWS account where we're going to start another project, project 6, and we build from there. All right, let's get it. All right, guys. So this is the VPC, the diagram of the VPC, the project that we're building today. So as you can see, we have our AWS region right here, all the stuff we did talk about it. So if you need some reference, you can kind of go back to the previous project that we have from project 1 until here. And then as you can see here, we have two VPC. We have the first VPC here, and this is the second one. And also inside of the VPC, we have our route table. So we have route table 1 and then route table 2. And we have a network ACL 1. And then we have the network ACL 2, right? And we have a private subnet. And then also this is a public subnet right here. And inside of the private subnet, we did build a security group. And we have our 4 into tech EC2 1 and then 4 into tech EC2 2, right? So now here we have our VPC peering connection right here. This is what we're going to use to be able to let these two VPC connect to communicate between them without any problem. And also we have the internet gateway here, okay? Okay, so let me try to explain VPC peering in another way. So VPC peering is basically a network connection between two virtual private cloud, which is the VPC1 and then the VPC2, right? And basically, it allowed them, so we have the VPC peering here. So it allows these two VPC right here to communicate with each other as if they were on the same network, even if they are in a different network. So this VPC pairing right here help them communicate or maybe able them to communicate as they were in the same network, okay? But even they will communicate in a different network, but it's going to be still privately without like the internet knowing exactly what's going on, right? So the main thing that the reason why we're using the VPC pairing right here, we want them to communicate privately, okay? So think of a VPC as a basketball team, like with like its own code. Like, so we have code 1 and then code 2 right here, right? And also inside the code, this is the code right here, the private subnet 1 and then the public subnet, those are the code, right? So we have players inside the code, which is going to be our EC2 instance that we have right here, okay? And now we have a playbook. So basically the playbook is like the rules that we need to follow. And who's going to bring those rules is basically the security group that we have here. And then the ACL right here, ACL1, the network ACL, and then also the route table. So basically the rules that we want those players to do, we're going to send those rules by these two right here. So that's the reason why we have them here. So basically they are here to translate the rules that we want them and the security group right here. So basically that's the reason why we have them there, right? So now, normally each team plays on its own court, like this one play these players play here, and also these players play here, right? And they can just walk over and then jump into the another court. So player from this VPC, they cannot come and then walk into this court. Same thing, right? Same thing around. So now their court is separate, right? So now imagine if we created a VPC pairing connection, which is going to be here. That is like building a tunnel between the two courts. So now basically the reason why we're building this VPC pairing right here, we're trying to build a tunnel where players, they can use this tunnel right here to go to this different court. If player from this court wanted to go here, they have to go through this tunnel right here. And same thing around. If these players right here, they wanted to come to this court, they have to go through this tunnel right here without anybody knowing that there is a tunnel there, okay? So that's the reason why we're building it. So basically, tunnel that player use it as like the team A use it to go through court B, and then the team B use it to go to team A, okay? Court. That's exactly why we have the VPC pairing connection right there, okay? So now, even though the tunnel connects to the two courts, both coaches or like, the AWS users or whoever, administrator need to set up their own rules where players need to follow the rule to be able to go back and forth between two courts using the tunnel right here. Okay. So basically that's the rule. We're going to set up those rules inside of our project today. Okay. And then now, so as you move forward, updating the rules like the route table and the security group, that help you to give actual pass to the players, and then, whoever want to pass there. So without those rules and those permission, basically the tunnel, it doesn't exit, no one can use it. So basically now the rules that we will set, which is going to be the security rule that we're going to set, it will help facilitate for other players to use this to go back and forth between these two codes, okay? So basically that's what we're building today. So to make it short and clear, VPC pairing is just basically think of it as like a tunnel that is very secure, and then between two VPC, and then now they can communicate and collaborate without going public. So the main goal here is like these two codes right here. Players can come here and then come to the second code privately, so they don't have to do it public. Okay. So now that we are done, we here working on our diagram. Let's go ahead and jump into our AWS account and then start building from the ground and go up. All right. Now that we are here in our AWS console, let's go ahead and create our first VPC. Okay, so now you can come here and then look for VPC, and as you can see, the VPC is coming up here. And now what we want to do next is you want to go to where it says your VPC. So we have one which is already created, right? So we don't really need to worry about this one. This is the default that we have. Okay, so we want to go ahead and click on create VPC, and then now what we need is we used to create one by one, but now at this time of the the project, we understand exactly how to use the VPC and more. So we want to go ahead and click on VPC and more, and as you can see, we give you like a clear view of exactly what comes with what. Okay, so we have everything, all the information here. Let's go ahead and then change the name of the project. So this one is going to be FIT VPC or VPC1. So it's going to be 10.0.1.0/16. So we already talked about the CIDR block, and if you need more reference, you can go back to our project and to be able to understand exactly why we changed this. So now for CIDR block, we don't need to touch anything. The tenancy we can leave it, and then here none, and then S3 gateway, we don't need everything. So basically this is what we have. This is all the configuration that we need. And as you can see, AWS make it very simple for us to kind of find exactly what we have. Okay, so now as you can see, we have our VPC, we have our subnet, which is 1, we have our route table, which is 1, and we have our network connection here. So basically that's what we need here. And then let's go ahead and then click on create. And as you can see, it's going to be very fast. It's already created our VPC. Okay, so this one is very fast. So now let's go ahead, click on view VPC. And then this is our VPC that we have here. Okay. All right. Now that we have created our first VPC, let's go ahead and create our second VPC. And we are going to follow the same step that we did. You come here and then click on VPC, and then here click on VPC and more, and then I'll give it the name. So it's going to be Fall Into Tech VPC2. Okay, it's going to be the name. And the CIDR block here, let's go ahead and then switch it up a little bit, put it as 2.0. All right. So now we just want to change it up here. We want them to have a unique IP just because we don't want them to overlap. That's the reason why we're changing here. Okay. And then here we're going to leave the tenancy as default. Number of availability zone, let's choose 1. Number of public subnet, number of private, let's leave it at 0. And then here we have this. Okay. Let's make sure that we have everything that we need. All right. So zone here, we need only 1. And then public subnet, we want 1, and then 0 private subnet. Okay, now we have everything ready. Let's go ahead and click on create VPC. And as you can see, our second VPC is being created and we're done. Let's go ahead, click on view VPC. And now we have our second VPC here. Okay, so let's go back here and let me just edit the name again. And it's going to be Fall Into Tech VPC2. There you go. So now we have our 2 VPC here. Okay, so now that we have our 2 VPC, we have created our VPC successfully. So now basically it's just basically like building 2 isolated network, just like 2 separate neighborhoods, right? That they don't really know each other. Okay, so each VPC has its own IP range. That's why we set up the first one as 10.0, as you can see here, 10.1.0.016, and then 10.2.0.0/16. Okay, so that's the reason why we created there. Okay, so now they have their own IP range, they have their own subnet, and have their own resources. Okay, and which they just basically going to help us have control exactly the traffic flow that was coming in and coming out. So in the next step, we are going to connect these 2 VPC. And again, remember, this project is going to be VPC peering. Okay, So now let's go ahead and jump right into the next step. All right, now that we have our VPC here, both of them, VPC1 and VPC2, they're done. And let's go back to our diagram, okay? So basically, this is what we create. The VPC1 is here, and then we have created our VPC2. And then now, the next step will be to create our VPC peering connection right here. So as you can see, this is what we need. And let me explain again, what is a VPC peering connection? So a VPC peering connection is a direct connection that basically help you have that communication between two VPCs, okay? So a peering connection lets you, like, for example, take data from VPC1, send it to VPC2 without going publicly. It has to go through a tunnel, which is going to be the VPC peering here. So it's going to be private, okay? So now each VPC have their own private IP addresses. They have their own, network configuration and stuff like that. They have everything. So now, without using the VPC peering, everything they do is going to be public, okay? So now that's the only reason we're creating this VPC peering connection right here, where the data will go through this VPC peering and go to from code 1 to code 2, from VPC1 to VPC2 without being public, okay? So now, with that being said, let's go back to our AWS console. So now that we are here, you want to come here where it says peering connection, and you click on peering connection. And the next step will be to click on create peering connection right here. Okay, so now let's give it a name here. So it's going to be VPC1, let's see, VPC2. That's going to be the name of our peering connection, okay? So now here, what you want to do here, you want to select like a VPC. It means like the requester, like where it's coming from, okay? So now we want to choose the VPC1 because we will get the data will come from the VPC1 and go to the VPC2. Okay, so now as you can see, the CIDR block is here. And then now, as you can see here, we have select another VPC. If you had a node or the account that you wanted to, connect with, you can definitely change it here, but we don't need to because we have everything here. So now we want to check like the VPC. If they were coming from a different region, we can also check that here, but they're all coming in the same region. So now we're going to come here and then click on this and then now choose VPC2. There you go. So the request, as you can see here, will come from VPC1 and the acceptor is going to be VPC2. And now we have everything set up and it's pretty simple and straightforward. So now what we want to do next, we want to go ahead and click on create peering connection. And we just give it a time, boom, our peering connection is done. It's created right now. As you can see here, we have VPC as a requester and then we have who are going to accept it, which is the VPC2. Okay. All right. So here, our next step will be to create that connection between the two VPC. Okay. So as you can see here, it's pending. As you can see, it's showing like pending acceptance. Okay. And to accept the request that was sent, you want to come here where it says action. You click on action and then go ahead and accept the request right here. And then click on accept the request. There you go. So now we did accept the request between the VPC1 and VPC2. Okay. So now we're done with that, and now let's go ahead and move into the next step. All right, so now that we're done with building the peering connection, there is one step that we need to do, which is our route table. So we need to update our route table, okay? And to update our route table, you want to come here. You want to make sure that your peering connection is selected, and then come here where it says route table and click on it, and it will give you the route table that we have here. So let me just basically explain why we have to change our route table rules here. Okay, so now that we have established our VPC peering connection, the two VPC are technically connected, right? But that doesn't automatically mean like they can communicate between them. So think of it like, for example, you build a bridge between two neighborhoods, but we haven't told the GPS system in either neighborhood how to cross it yet. Okay, so we already built the bridge, but we didn't tell our GPS a way to get there. Okay, so that's where route table come in. So each VPC need to know exactly how to reach the other network. So by basically what we're going to do is updating those route tables. And we are just adding a rule that tells the traffic, hey, if you come from VPC1, this is the way to get to VPC2, right? And that's basically what we going to do here. And without updating these route tables, even though the peering exists itself, but the traffic don't really know exactly how to go to the other side. Okay, it will stop and without going anywhere. So that's the reason why we're updating the route table. And let's go ahead and then update our route table here. All right, here what we want to do, we want to make sure that the data that we're gonna send from VPC1 to VPC2 know exactly the route that they will take. And to do that, we want to make sure to edit our first route table here. You want to go ahead and click on first route here. And then now you want to come here where it says route, you click on routes. And then now this is, as you can see, this is the destination that we have. And then this is the target, okay? So now what you want to do, you want to come here, click on edit route. And then now you want to come here, click on out route here. And then now here, if you guys remember the first IP address that we had at the beginning, that's what we're going to need, okay? Which was 10.0.0/16, right? /16. This is the first one that, let me make sure that what I have on my note. Okay, so this is the first one that we have here. So that's what we need. And then here we want to go ahead, choose peering connection, and then now we already built that. There you go. So this is the peering connection that we have. So that's what you want to select. And then now you want to go ahead, click on save changes. Okay, so now we have that one done, right? So now we want to go back to our route table and then do the same thing for the VPC2. You want to come here, click on VPC2 here, and then go to routes, and then now edit route here and add routes here. So now it's going to be 10.1.0/16, and we already explained why we set up this one here. So now you click on that, choose here peering connection, and then choose our VPC peering that we have. Okay, so now save changes. There you go. So now basically those are the two route table modifications that we needed. We want to make sure that whenever the data is coming from one VPC going to another one, they know exactly where to go and how to get there. Okay, so the route table, they're the one who send the data there. Okay, all right. Now that we are done with our two VPC, which is for Intotech VPC1 and VPC2, it's time to set up our EC2 instance, okay? And to set up the EC2 instance, you want to come here and then type EC2 and click on EC2 here. And as you have the EC2, you can go directly here and then click launch instance, or if you want, you can also come here where it says instance. So click on instance and now come here and then launch our first instance here. Okay, so now you click on that. Let's give it a name. It's gonna be instance for Intotech 1. Okay, it's gonna be the name because we have to create two of them. So now it's gonna be the number one right here, and then here we want to make sure that we stay with the Amazon Linux 2023 kernel, and which is like the free eligible right here. Okay, and whatever you choose, you want to make sure that you choosing the free tier eligible. Okay, so here we don't have to change everything, we can leave it as it is. And then instance type, you can leave it as this one, the free tiers. And then here when it comes to key pair, this time around we're not going to use any key pair, we're going to use without key pair, because the instant connect that we're going to use, the connector we have is, it will create its own security, right? We don't need to create any key pair here. So we're just going to leave it as default and it will create its own key pair later on. Okay. So now next step, what we want to do, we want to come here where it says edit. You click on edit here. And then now when it comes to VPC requirement, we already have two VPC that we created, and this EC2 instance, we want it to be inside of our VPC number one. So you come here, you click here, and then you choose VPC1. And as you can see, you have VPC1 here, and then we have VPC1, and then we make sure that it's in the public subnet. As you can see, the public subnet is right here, which is the public subnet 1. And auto assign public, we can leave it as it is. And then here, we can come here and select existing security group. So you click on existing security group and you choose, because we already have that one that our VPC created for us, so which is the default. So you choose this one right here. And now when you choose it, so we have everything done. Okay. Everything looks good so far. Let's double check. Now we can go ahead and launch our instance 1. Okay, there you go. That one is done. And if you come back here into instance, you should be able to see, there you go. This is instance 1 right here and it's running. So now let's go ahead and launch our second instance, because we want two EC2 instance inside of our VPC. Okay, one should be in our VPC1 and the second one will be in our VPC2. Now you want to come here and click on launch instances here, and we're going to repeat the same steps. Okay, so you come here, you put for Intotech 2. Okay, that's going to be the name here. Let's give, there you go. And then now we stay with Amazon Linux, and let's make sure that we can have the free tiers. Okay, hold on a second here. Seems like you, okay, let me see what we have here. All right, I want to make sure that I have the free one. Let's see. Okay, devices. Okay, let's check here 1 second. Okay, now let's go ahead and then launch our second EC2 instance. Okay, so you want to come here and give it a name, and it's gonna be instance, let's see, 42. Okay, so that's the name of our second instance here. And then now I'm gonna come here and choose the Amazon Linux, which is like the free tier again, and then we want to stay with the free tiers, and then from there, again, we don't need a key pair because the EC2 Instant Connect that we're going to use, we will provide its own key pair as I explained on the first EC2 when I was creating. So now we want to come here and then click on proceed with our key pair. And then now here we want to go ahead and then edit our network setting here. And now we're going to select this one going to be sitting into our VPC2, right? So now we choose VPC2 here and select extend group. Let's choose that one again, and then go with the default that we created, that the VPC already created, and we have everything set up. So now let's go ahead and launch our second VPC, okay? And just give it a time. Should be coming up soon. Boom, it's done. Looks like now we have 2 VPC. Let's double check. There you go. We have 2 VPC. I'm sorry, I say VPC. We have 2 instant 1 and instant 2, okay? So this one is sitting into VPC 1 and this one is sitting into VPC 2, okay? So now let's go ahead and jump into the next step. All right, now that we have our 2 instances here, let's try to connect into them. So now let's go ahead and select our first one right here. So as you selected this first one, and then you want to go ahead and click on connect, okay? And see what we have. There you go. So now there is a warning here. As you can see, it said no public IPv4 or IPv6 address assigned. With no public IPv4 or IPv6 address, you can't use EC2 Instant Connect. Alternatively, you can try connecting using EC2 Instant Connect or an endpoint. So we don't need to use the endpoint. So let's just go ahead and then see exactly why we don't have any connection here. Okay. Now we can go back here, and as we are inside of our EC2 here, what we want to unselect and then go where is, let me see. Let's see, capacity reserve. No, let's see, no, network security, elastic IPs, right? That's what we want to click. And here, when you click Elastic IPs, it will show you exactly how can you allocate Elastic IP address into this. Well, let me just give you a small explanation on what's going on here. Okay, so now before we move forward, we want to make sure to understand exactly this part right here, which is allocate Elastic IP addresses, okay? And let me just make sure to make it very clear. I can explain exactly what it is. So an Elastic IP is basically, in AWS, is basically a static public IP address that you can attach to your EC2 instance. You know, that you make sure that when you attach it to your EC2 instance, it doesn't really change exactly. It stay on like the same one, okay? Even if you restart your instance, your console or whatever, it will be stay on that one. So that's Elastic. It's going to be static, okay? So now think of it like if your EC2 instance was a basketball player on a team, right? So the Elastic IP is like giving that special player a permanent jersey number. So no matter how many games you play or how many times that player sit out and come back into the game, their number will stay the same. And everyone knows exactly how to find them on the code, right? Basically, so their number is there. So that's basically what is static public IP address here, right? So now it definitely helps you when you're using it, basically help you be consistent access. Basically, that's what it does, right? You want to make sure that whenever you restart your VPC and then whenever you restart your console, you will still have the same IP address that you need, okay? So now basically that's what we're going to do here and allocate IP address that we're going to add into our VPC, our instance, okay? That's what we're going to do here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. All right, now the next step is here. When you come here where you have the Elastic IPs, now you want to go ahead and click on where you say allocate Elastic IP address, okay? As you click there, it will ask you if you bring your own IP. So basically, AWS already provide us with the pool of IP addresses that we can choose from, all right? So now we don't have our own IP address, but some cases they may have IP addresses that we're going to bring, so we don't need to bring any right now. So we're just going to stay with the default where we're going to choose from Amazon's pools of address, of IPv4 address, okay? So now after that, you want to go ahead and you click on allocate. As you can see, it already allocated an IP address for us, okay? So now this is the IP address that AWS gave us. So now what we want to do is we want to associate this IP address with our instance that we want, okay? So now to do that, you want to come here and then select the IP address that you have and then go to action where you say action here. And as you click on action here, you will see associate Elastic IP address and you click on associate. And then here, as you can see, this is the IP address that we have. And then, of course, what type of resource that we need to allocate it is going to be instant here. And then now what we want to do, we want to come here where it says instance, and then we look for our instance. As you can see, we have our instance 1 is here and instance 2 is here. So what we need is to associate this IP address to our first instance, which is going to be the instance for into tech 1. Okay, so you choose that one, and then here you don't have to choose anything. You can leave it as default and then click on associate. Okay, and then now it works, right? So what we want to do now is we want to go back into our instance and make sure that our instance have that IP address that we associate is really there. Okay, so now you want to go back here to your instance, and then you want to click on the first IP here. There you go. As you can see, this is our IP address here. So it works. So now if you choose the second one, as you can see, the public IP address is empty because we did not associate any IP address into this one yet. But if you go back here into the first one, which is what we just did right now, and you refresh, you see we have our IP address here. Okay, so now let's do the same thing for our second instance. Okay, all right, now that we did allocate IPv4 for our instance, which is right here, let's go ahead and try our connection. Okay, and to connect, you want to select the EC2 again. So as you can see here, select and then go ahead and click on connect, and looks like everything looks good. We don't have no warning here. Okay, so now you want to go ahead and click on connect. See what we have. Waiting, almost there. We got an error here. Okay, so it failed to connect to your instance, and it say error establishing SSH connecting to your instance. Try it later. Okay, so I know exactly what happened. Looks like we did not set up properly our the rules for the SSH connection to be able to happen. Okay, so now let's go back here. And to do that, we have to go back into VPC. And as you are in your VPC here, click on VPC and click on your VPC. Let's look at not the subnet, but maybe the security group. Okay, there you go. So we have our security group. Okay, so now let's look which one is connected to our VPC, because this is like some security group, the rules that we have here. So let's try to see this one right here. This one, not that one. Let's see this one. Okay, this one is connected to our VPC2. We don't need that one. We need from the VPC1. Let's try this one right here. Okay, so let me write this down for VPC2, so I'll remember that. So let's try this one. There you go. So now this is the VPC1. So this is the security group for our VPC1, as you can see right here. Okay. So now, as you can see here, what we want to make sure that we have our rules is properly connected here. Okay. Let's go back here a little bit. So it's going to be VPC1. Okay. So let me just get back here and look at the inbound rules that we have. So this is the one that we connect. Okay. This is the for VPC1. Okay. So now let's look at the inbound rules. As you can see here, the inbound rules will allow all traffic. Protocol is all, range all, but source is different. So the source is different. Okay, so we need to set up this one right here properly. We need to add our SSH rules. So to add that, you want to come here and then click on edit rules. And now let's add the new rule. Add rules. And what type of rules that we need? We need the SSH. And then here we need to add with the 0.0.0.0, which is like all traffic. Okay, it's gonna allow all traffic. Okay, so now we're done with that. We add the SSH rule. That's what we need. Port 22. And the protocol is going to be TCP. And then now let's click Save Rules. Okay, now the rules is done. Let's go back to our EC2 again. Okay, now here we want to go into our EC2. Click on EC2 and go to your instance right here. And as you are here in your instance, and let's just give it the number 1 again. And let's click on Connect. See if it works. Okay, let's go ahead and click on Connect. As you can see, it's trying to connect. There you go. That one works. So it works. So we got our first connection successfully. Okay. So now let's move into the next step. Okay, now that we have our connection is working right here, let's test our connection. Let's ping google.com. There you go. So we have some response here. And now let's ping our second instance that we have. This one right here. Select the second one. And let's see. Okay, this is what we need. Now that's the IPv4 set. It's going to be, let's see, I need to write this down. It's going to be 10.2.0.0.16. Okay, so but I wasn't looking for our VPC. Okay, let me open this here. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Let's go back to our instance. Let's go your VPC. Let's see. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Let's go back to our EC2. We need to ping the second EC2, right? So let's go to our instance here. And as we are here in our instance, we need there you go. This is what I need. We need the IPv4 the IP address of the second instance right here. So this is what we need. Okay, so we already copied that one, and now let's go back to our connectivity here, the one that we already connected. Okay, this one, I think it's this one. Okay, we want to ping this IP address. So we pinging from the EC2 instance 1 connection to EC2 instance 2. Okay, so now that's what we're pinging right here. See if it's gonna work. All right. No, it's not working. Ping name or server. Okay, I wrote it wrong. Let's do ping Ctrl V. Okay, there you go. So now it's not going through, but we know that we have data sent from our EC2 instance 1 to our EC2 instance 2, but it's not responding here, as you can see. So it's not responding. So now we want to go back to our VPC EC2 here, and let's see what we want to change. Okay, here, let's go back to our VPC2. Let's go back to the VPC and click on the VPC. And now as we are here, let's go back to our security group right here. So security group, and again, make sure that you choose the proper one. It's going to be the F. Don't end up with F. Okay, so this one right here, let's double check. Okay, from the VPC2. Okay, now okay, let's go back. So now that we are here, we want to double check the inbound rules right here. So we have the inbound rules. Now let's go ahead and edit the rules and add one rule, because we're missing something here. And the one that we're missing is the ICMP. ICMP, for this is what we're missing right here. ICMP, all ICMP. Okay, so now we choose all ICMP IPv4, and I did give a lot of explanation when it comes to ICMP on my previous project. Okay, so now we choose that one, and then here we want to customize it to the one that we have. The side block that we have is going to be 10.0, no, 10.2. .0/16, okay, which is the one that we have on the first EC2 that we have, the first VPC that we have, right? So you choose that one, and then now let's save rules. Now it's already saved. Now let's go back to our connection here, and let's do the same thing again. Let's ping the same IP address and see if it's gonna work. Okay, now it's not working. Okay, so now let's try something else again. Let's go back to these rules that we just created. Okay, which is gonna be the F1 right here. Okay, this one, the side block is 10.2.0/6. Okay, that's what we need. Okay, let's try one more time to group, and then let's see the inbound rules that we have. IPv4 all 10.0.0. Okay, let me double check, make sure that to know exactly why it's not pinging. So let's do again. Ping. Okay, now it's not working. Okay, now let's troubleshoot exactly to understand exactly why it's not working here. Okay, now let's edit here, right here, and then see what we're gonna have. Let's do it as 10.1.0/16. Okay, let's use this one and then save the rules, and it's saved right now. And let's go back here. Yeah, there you go. Oh, okay, now it's working. Okay, yep. So now instead of doing the 10.0, instead of doing 10.2.0.0/16, it's gonna be 10.1.0.0/16. As you can see, it is working. So now the EC2 is able to ping the EC2. So now the connection that we set up is working perfectly. Okay, all right, so that was the last step of our project, but let's double check again, make sure that it's working, because this project was peering connecting, right? So now let's select the instance 1 right here, and then let's go to connect. Okay, so everything looks good. Let's connect to right here, and let's just give it a time. It should be coming up soon. Okay, now it's working, right? Let's try to ping our EC2, right? So let's see. Boom, it's working. There you go. So this is what we needed, and our project works perfectly. So basically, this is what we were doing today, which is peering connection. And if you go back to here into our diagram here, this is what we built. This is what we built, and then this is what we did. We did a peering connection. This is the last aspect that we needed, okay? And thank you guys for watching. And, that was an amazing project where you do learn a lot of steps. What we had today was a VPC peering connection, and it's working. So I can't wait to see you guys into the next one. Peace out.